Hey, I'm Kurt, and I play the Resident Evil 4 remake.
No way.
And while I only played it for 30 minutes, I can say one thing is for sure, that this could be the Resident Evil 4 remake fans want, but not the one they're expecting to get. And this can all be illustrated by a single choice that Capcom made with a dog. And if you know the dog, you know the dog. You know what dog I'm talking about. The demo kicks off in the opening moments where Leon S. Kennedy is hot on the trail to investigate the disappearance of the president's daughter. And while it all feels familiar to the events of the original, do not be fooled, because this Resident Evil 4 is a lot more menacing than returning players might expect. This time around, Leon is trudging through a moonlit forest, and the sense of impending dread is on full display. The sound of buzzing flies, the squawks of crows, and the rotting mound of animal carcasses stacked along the path emphasizes the more horror-centric tone. Now, I don't want to reveal too many details about the opening shack scene because I want returning fans to be surprised, but I will say that it unravels a little differently, and it's absolutely terrifying. It subverted my expectations of the iconic first Ganando, and though subtle, the change was enough for me to start questioning what would happen around every corner. I was forced to navigate its many hallways and rooms, which felt more maze-like, and to my surprise, featured locked doors that required keys to open. It's a small detail, but one that further sets it apart from the original, making it more akin to traditional Resident Evil design, which the original Resident Evil 4 strayed away from. The shack felt grimy, disgusting, and dilapidated, and this all came to a head with the harrowing first run-in with the Resident Evil 4 remake's take on the Ganando.
No way.
With only one ammo clip at my disposal, cornered and trapped, I alternated firing off rounds and desperately fending it off using my knife, which, unlike the original, has a durability bar. Ganados were revolutionary in the original for their distinct movements, like ducking out of the way of your crosshair or holding their hands in front of their face to block shots. We've come a long way since then, but it's safe to say that the frenetic characteristics have been turned up a notch to ensure they're still a threat. Up close, their faces are contorted and grimacing, and being grabbed by one offers a chance to get a little intimate with the details. Like before, aiming for the knees will prompt enemies to fall to the ground, queuing up a prompt to kick their face in for a knockback effect on the surrounding villagers. And, as expected, it felt incredibly cool, because Leon is in fact a very cool dude. Something new to the mix were executions. Sometimes after downing a Ganado, there was an invitation to press R2, making Leon plunge his knife into the target. Sprinting through the woods, I can hear groans and murmurs from villagers in the distance, really giving the sensation of being surrounded on all sides. And if my anxiety wasn't high enough, that's when I came across the dog. In this Resident Evil 4, there is no dog to save from a bear trap. Instead, a murder of crows surrounded its corpse, leg still trapped. The message was clear. This Resident Evil 4 is darker and even more dire than the one you know. Through all its subtle changes, one thing remained near identical: the village scene. This was, to me, a shining moment that Capcom knows not to fix, because it certainly ain't broke. Instead, the remarkable difference is the introduction of stealth. This time, Leon can crouch and move around, creating the opportunity to silently pick off enemies and gather resources. But don't be fooled. The rampage of villagers hunting you down is still inevitable. The moment you're spotted, it's a white-knuckled sprint to stay alive as you are surrounded on all sides. I scrambled through doors, jumped through windows, avoided dozens of Ganados that lurched at me or threw hatchets from all angles. I'd pop one of the knees, kicking into the crowd only to be grabbed from behind, triggering a parry attack to plunge my knife into their face. While ammo was scarce, materials to make weren't. I had to scavenge through drawers to find supplies to craft ammunition and health items, another design trope carried over from the broader series. And through the chaos and frantic controller crunching, Leon still managed to toss out one-liners, adding much needed levity with a casual,
"Kill me for the repairs later."
Leon, you just set an innocent cow on fire, dude. How are you this cool? The chaos I was so familiar with from the original was turned up to 11 this time around. The way the Ganados now move, bump into each other, and scramble to tear you apart with their bare hands is only topped in intensity by the menacing presence of the Chainsaw Man. who now smashes through the environment to get to you. Adding an extra maniacal presence to an already high-stress situation. When the demo ended, I could still feel my heart pounding through my chest.
A major takeaway was the emphasis on survival horror specifically. Now, this is interesting because the original made such a distinction away from its survival horror roots, only for the remake to reaffirm it. Now, it seems like Capcom is making a very deliberate effort to try and balance action and survival. And of course, I'm eager to see if they can really pull it off.
Resident Evil 4 Remake doesn't feel like it's aiming to revolutionize games the way the original did 17 years ago. Instead, Capcom is doubling down on what has made Resident Evil 4 timeless all these years later. Its design, its tension, and, of course, Leon S. Kennedy. In doing so, its goal is to emphasize what remains great while fine-tuning it with everything the franchise has learned in its 26 years of existence.
So far, it feels like Capcom knows what it needs to add in order for this game to stand on its own, especially among a new generation of horror games, not to mention a plethora of remakes that we have coming on the way, including Dead Space, Alone in the Dark, and now Silent Hill 2. But from what I can tell, Capcom knows what it needs to add in order to please returning fanatics like me. And yes, the bingo line, it's there.